Madeline Crawford exited the hospital, holding the test results in her shaky hands. There were tears in her eyes, but it was unknown if she was happy or sad. "Miss Crawford, you're pregnant." The doctor's words rang in her ears once more. 3 months ago, she had married Jeremy Whitman. He was the #1 young master of a prestigious family that was the envy of the entire Glendale. On the day of the wedding, every woman in the city was extremely envious of her. She had also thought that she was the happiest and luckiest woman on earth. Ever since she met Jeremy when she was 10 years old, a seed had been planted in her heart. In order to get on Jeremy's level and steal another glance at him in the crowd, she had worked hard to improve herself throughout the past 12 years. She had always felt that they were from two different worlds. She was like a wild child who grew up in the ruins. How could she have any sort of relationship with a man like him? However, it was unsure if she had been blessed by God, or if the God of destiny was fooling around with her. 3 months ago, she attended her friend's birthday party. The next morning, when she woke up, she saw Jeremy lying next to her. The red stain on the pristine sheet looked extremely eye-catching. It described what had happened between her and Jeremy the night before. Before she could comprehend the situation, there was a knock on the door followed by a group of reporters that blocked the exit. They could not wait to publish the news of Jeremy having spent the night with a mysterious woman. The Whitmans were the most distinguished family in Glendale. Evidently, they were an aristocratic family and had a literary reputation. Old Master Whitman was an old-fashioned man. After he found out about it, he announced Jeremy and Madeline's wedding immediately. It was like a dream to Madeline. However, it was not a good dream. Jeremy did not love her at all. Instead, he despised her. He hated her. He hated her for existing and having caused him to let down his beloved woman, Meredith Crawford. It has to be said that Meredith Crawford was also Madeline's beloved sister. Nevertheless, Madeline gathered up the courage to call Jeremy. Without a surprise, her call was declined. Thus, she could only timidly send a text over to tell him that she had something to say and was hoping he could come home that night. Their marriage was now 3 months old, yet he had never spent a night at home. Madeline would always be alone in the bedroom, and she knew very well where he spent his nights at. He had not picked up his phone, and he was not replying to the text. Hence, Madeline's heart went cold. She knew Jeremy would not come home tonight as well. With that being said, she took a shower and was about to rest when the door was slammed open violently with a loud bang. She lifted her head and was alarmed when she saw his frigid yet handsome face. Her heart started beating out of control. "Jeremy, you're home," she cautiously called out his name. There was a small smile on her clean face. Nonetheless, when she approached him, the man grabbed her arm and roughly threw her on the bed. The joints of his fingers were distinct as he forcefully pinched Madeline's chin. His eyes were filled with drunkenness and rage. "Madeline, do you like me that much? To the point that you climbed into my bed by using such despicable methods, huh?" The man's voice was alluring. There was a hint of mockery and hatred in his voice. Her face turned pale as she looked at the man she had loved for a dozen years while her heart throbbed with pain. "Jeremy, you've misunderstood me." "Misunderstood you?" The man looked at her in contempt and chuckled deeply. "Madeline, why are you still pretending?" After he said that. The next day, Madeline woke up from her sleep. Before she was fully conscious, a box of contraceptive pills was thrown at her. "Eat this." Madeline lifted her head and saw that Jeremy was already fully clothed. He looked cold and elegant, completely different from the violent devil he had been the night before. Looking at the box of contraceptive pills, Madeline's heart started to tremble. She was already pregnant and should not be eating contraceptive pills. It would cause the baby to become deformed. "Why are you not eating? Do you want me to feed you?" When Jeremy saw that Madeline was not moving, he was slightly agitated. "Madeline, I'm telling you. Don't even think about having my child. You're just a shameless lowlife who would bite the hand that feeds you. You do not deserve to have my child." The man's words struck Madeline's heart. It was already summer, but Madeline could feel a cold breeze invading her heart violently. She had thought that the child would be the breakthrough to their relationship, but it looked like she had been too naive. Now, she did not even have the courage to tell the man that she was pregnant with his child. Thus, under Jeremy's cold and watchful gaze, she had no choice. She took out a pill and pretended to swallow it. In reality, she hid the pill under her tongue. Madeline felt guilty. She was scared that Jeremy would see through her. However, at this time, his phone rang. Jeremy looked at the caller ID and answered the call without hesitating. Immediately, his eyebrows knitted together. What? Meredith tried to kill herself? I'm coming now. Madeline was shocked by the news. Mer had tried to kill herself? She ignored the discomfort in her body and cleaned herself up quickly. Then, she put on a random piece of clothing and ran downstairs. Jeremy had started the car and was about to drive away. However, the door of the passenger seat suddenly flew open. Take your filthy hand away. Who permitted you to sit in my car? The man's cold and heartless words caused Madeline to quickly take her hand away. She was as lowly as dirt whenever she looked at Jeremy. Jeremy, I'm worried about Mer. Let me go with you. You're worried? Shouldn't you be the happiest if Meredith has died? He looked at her coldly with despise in his eyes. Then, he stepped on the gas. Madeline's face was white. After standing in a daze for a few seconds, she called a car and tailed Jeremy's car. In City Center Hospital, Madeline followed Jeremy to a room. In there, she watched with a worried look on her face as Jeremy walked toward the bed. At this moment, Meredith could be seen sitting on the bed with a pale face. Her eyes were wet, and she looked upset. However, it was fortunate that she was not in danger. Madeline let out a sigh of relief. When Meredith saw Jeremy, her face fell. She fell into his arms devastatingly. Jeremy. She called out Jeremy's name sweetly and told him her grievances while being wrapped in his arms. In Madeline's eyes, Jeremy and Meredith looked like a loving couple, while she was just an outsider. Madeline suppressed the sadness in her heart and walked forward. Mer, Madeline, you thankless wench. How dare you come and see Meredith? Just when Madeline was about to walk over, an angry voice scolded from behind her. The voice was familiar. It was Meredith's mother, Rose Tanner. Madeline turned around and received a heavy slap across her face. Consequently, her vision turned blur from the impact of the slap. You shameless harlot. We adopted you out of kindness. We fed you, we clothed you, and in the end, you became the ungrateful wench that snatched away Meredith's fiancé. All of a sudden, Rose began talking about how she had slept with Jeremy 3 months ago. However, she had not planned for it to happen. Madeline wanted to explain herself, but she received another slap on the other side of her face. The corner of her lips started bleeding after the slap. Furthermore, she began seeing stars and almost fell down as a result. Afterward, John Crawford, her father, shouted in her ear. Madeline, from this day onward, you're no longer a Crawford. We don't have a daughter who's so shameless as to do anything to get what she wants. After he said that, John kicked Madeline. Madeline fell to the floor after being kicked out of nowhere. She protected her stomach subconsciously. Afterward, before she could explain, John slapped her on her head again. You B***tch. Why would Meredith kill herself for someone like you? You're the one who deserves to die. Through gritted teeth, John spat out each and every word. He despised Madeline to the bone. Dad, it's fine. I'm not destined to be with Jeremy. I don't blame Maddie. The sound of Meredith sobbing slowly began to sound from the other end of the room. The corner of Madeline's lips were bleeding, and her head was buzzing from pain. She endured the pain and lifted her head. As a result, she saw Meredith leaning against Jeremy's chest. Consequently, tears could be seen in her eyes. Jeremy was holding the sobbing Meredith. His eyes were filled with gentleness as he protected her. The scene looked comforting, but it stabbed Madeline right in the heart. If that thing had not happened, Jeremy's wife would be Meredith and not a feral child who was lodging under another person's roof. Despite not being the one who had planned what had happened, at this moment, she felt extremely guilty. Mer, you're still helping that B***tch at this moment? If she had not set that trap, you'd be Mrs. Whitman now. You wouldn't be so sad as to want to kill yourself because you were separated from Jeremy. You're too kind for still helping her. John felt indignant for his daughter. Dad, stop saying that. Meredith sighed and looked at Madeline with hurtful eyes. Maddie, if you liked Jeremy, you could have told me. I wouldn't have fought over him with you. Why did you do that just to get him? I'm so disappointed in you. Mer, I didn't. How dare you say that it wasn't you? John was livid. Are you still trying to be stubborn, you B***tch? Alright, I'll kill you. John lifted a chair in the room after he said that. On the other hand, Madeline cowered in fear and her hands went to protect her stomach. Why are you still here? Do you want to be killed? Jeremy said coldly. John froze as he held the chair. Madeline trembled and hurriedly got up from the floor. For the sake of her unborn child, she had to get out of there fast. She lowered her head in front of the onlookers and people who criticized her. She covered her swollen face and ran away with a limp. When she got to the entrance, she noticed her phone was not with her. Thus, she had to turn back. When she reached the entrance of the lift, the door coincidentally opened at the same time. Subsequently, Madeline saw Jeremy walk out of there by accident. He was standing upright and unafraid. His delicate features were the most outstanding ones in the crowd. However, what made Madeline curious was why he was leaving so quickly. Shouldn't he stay with Meredith longer? She did not dare to think too much. Hence, she lowered her head and walked into the lift. She was like a shameful thief. She walked up to Meredith's door and spotted her phone in the corner of the wall. Madeline wanted to leave after she got her phone. However, the moment she bent down, she heard Meredith's energetic laugh come from inside the room. HMPH, I feel so happy when I think about how that country bumpkin was beaten until she could not lift her head. Country bumpkin? Madeline was in disbelief. Was that country bumpkin her? HMPH, if I hadn't walked into the wrong room that night, I would have been the one who had spent the night with Jeremy. How could I let that country bumpkin benefit from it? I feel so disgusted whenever I think about how Jeremy was tarnished by that country bumpkin. After Meredith said that, Madeline's face turned white. She froze and felt as if it was suddenly hard to breathe. The truth had started to surface, but she did not have the courage to believe it.